Hello everyone, Electrical Squid here. So first of all, sorry if my voice sounds weird as I seem to be coming down with a bit of a cold, but it's fine. Anyway, so we all know that Splatoon 3 released with one kit for every weapon, and we also know that more weapons will be coming in future updates. So I decided to predict a second kit for every weapon. I made sure to make these kits strong, but not overpowered, faithful to their main weapon's role, as well as just trying to be fun. So you're not going to see a whole lot of the weaker sub-weapons in the game, nor are you going to see any Tena missiles, because who likes Tena missiles, right? I was inspired to do this by Chara and Vicvillions weapon kit videos. I highly recommend checking them out, and you may see a few of those kits appear in this video as well. And without further ado, let's get started. Also, in terms of points for special, the game seems to be going for a minimum of 180 and a maximum of 200. So that's what every kit will follow in this video. Starting off with Neo Splatoon, I gave it Splat Bomb and Reef Slider. Splat Bomb is always good for poking, doing a bit of chip damage, and making opponents move, and maybe getting a kill on any unsuspecting opponents. And Reef Slider would be good for helping it get in. It would be able to play off of the splash damage done by the explosion, and again, killing any unsuspecting opponent. This would be another really good aggressive kit for the weapon, and I would like to see it. For Custom Splattershot Jr., I decided to go with Torpedo and Inkstorm. This is a bit of a mix of its custom and Kensa kits from Splatoon 2. Torpedo would be good for poking and a bit of tracking and keeping the opponents a bit distracted, and Inkstorm is good for denying space and doing chip damage to anyone who gets stuck in the storm. So yeah, I think this would be a pretty good support kit for the weapon. So Splash-O-Matic had Burst Bomb and Zipcaster in the Return of the Mammalians trailer, and now it has Burst Bomb and Crab Tank, which I mean, Crab Tank is a really amazing special, and the weapon itself is still my favorite weapon in the game right now. But man, I was so excited to play a Splash with Zipcaster, so I am praying that Neo Splash gets it. And for the sub, I just went with Splat Bomb, because Splat Bomb is always good. So yeah, come on Nintendo, please give Neo Splash this kit. If you do, I'll rate your game a 10 out of 10. So if you pay close attention to the special weapons portion of the Splatoon 3 Direct, you will see this Booyah Bomb user holding a Aerospray RG after they throw the special. So yeah, I can only guess that this is the special that RG is getting, which I think would be really good for it. And for the sub, it needs Burst Bomb, because we all know that Aerospray is the slowest killing weapon in the game, and Burst Bomb gives it the chip damage it needs to confirm kills easier. Yeah, Gold Aerospray definitely deserves this kit. So for those who don't know, Tenatech Splattershot was my favorite weapon in Splatoon 2, and had Splat Bomb and Inkjet, and I would love to see this kit return. It's pretty self-explanatory, I don't really have a lot to say about it. For 52 Gal Deco, I decided to go with Autobomb for poking and tracking and slight chip damage. Now you may be asking, Elec, why are you giving this weapon the worst special in the game? Well, let's just assume that Ultra Stamp got its hitboxes fixed, and that it's an actual functioning special weapon. So yeah, I think this would be a really good aggressive kit for the weapon, as the vanilla kit has a more midliney kit with Wall and Whale. So yeah, I would like to see this one. For NZAP89, I decided to yet again go with Auto Bomb, and for the special I went with Triple Ink Strike. I'll be honest, I kind of just want a shooter with Triple Ink Strike, and I feel like it would be best on Zap. So yeah, I would love to see this. So for Forge Splattershot Pro, I just decided to go with its Kensa kit from Splatoon 2 with Splat Bomb and Booyah Bomb. Pro is in a fairly weak state right now, especially without MPU damage up, but damn it, damage up cannot return. So yeah, I think this kit would carry it pretty far, and I think it would help this weapon be pretty decent. For 96 Gal Deco, I decided to go with Splash Ball and Crab Tank. Splash Ball is pretty necessary for 96, as it really struggles without it. And yeah, Crab Tank for a more aggressive special. Yeah, I think this would be a really fun kit, and I think 96 fans would really enjoy it. For Custom Jet Squelcher, I decided to go with Burst Bomb and Big Bubbler. Burst Bomb has always been good with Jet Squelcher. It helps it get kills easier with the chip damage. And I agreed with Char when he said that Jet Squelcher should not get a special that it can sit back with, as yeah, that would be really annoying. So yeah, with Big Bubbler, it would make it move in a little more so that it can protect its teammates that are up in the front lines, and as well as give jumps. So yeah, this would be a pretty good kit. On to the 3 semi-autos. For L3 and Awesome's D, I went with Burst Bomb to help it get kills slightly easier, and Killer Whale 5.1. I think this weapon could play off the chip damage done by Killer Whale pretty well, and yeah, I think it would turn out pretty good. For H3 and Awesome's D, I decided to go with Splash Wall and Wave Breaker. Splash Ball has always been good for it, and I feel like it's kind of needed unless you have insane aim with the weapon. And Wave Breaker would be really good for locating opponents and doing slight chip damage to them, and I do think the weapon would play off really well off the chip damage done by the special, so yeah, I would love to see this kit. For Foil Squeezer, I decided to go the more supportive route and give it Suction Bomb and Ink Vacuum. Suction Bomb being good for dealing a lot more chip damage than normal bombs and laying down more paint, and Ink Vacuum to protect itself and teammates in front of it by sucking up enemy shots and then of course shooting the projectile afterwards. I think this would be another really fun kit for the weapon, and yeah, that's all I gotta say about it. On to blasters. With Luna Blaster Neo, I decided to give it Fizzy Bomb to help it get around and do a little bit of chip damage, and Ultra Stamp, assuming it gets fixed. I think it would be really good for it. And yeah, not really much else to say about it. For Custom Blaster, I decided to go with a kit similar to its kit from Splatoon 2, except I went with Curling Bomb instead of Auto Bomb because Auto Bomb is already on the regular blaster. So yeah, Curling Bomb would really help it move around, especially helping it get out of dangerous situations, and Inkjet is good for getting good angles and dealing with threats from a greater distance. So yeah, I would like to see this one. Custom Range Blaster, I went with Burst Bomb and Trizuka. It's always pretty well off of Burst Bomb's chip damage, and it can even be used to help it get around a little bit. And Trizuka is really good for taking out long distance threats and even just a little bit of displacement. So yeah, I think this would be really good. Flash Blaster Neo, I went with Curling Bomb to help it get around, and I debated giving it 10 of missiles because that's the kit that it has in Splatoon 2, but I figured, nah, that would be quite annoying, even if it couldn't really spam it, so I just went with Triple Ink Strike instead. I think this would be a pretty decent kit, and yeah, I just didn't want to give it a kit that would be too annoying, since the main weapon itself, while weak, is still quite a bit annoying, so yeah. Next up is Rapid Blaster Deco with Torpedo and Crab Tank. This is pretty similar to its Kensa kit from Splatoon 2. It was pretty strong in that game, even if Baller wasn't the best. So yeah, Crab Tank is basically just a better Baller by a long shot. So yeah, this kit I think would be really strong, and I'd like to see it somewhat return, even though Crab Tank is not Baller. So yeah, for Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, I decided to give it Splash Wall to keep itself protected, and Killer Whale 5.1. Once again, I think this weapon could play off the chip damage done by Whale 5.1 quite a bit, so yeah, I think it would be really good. On to Rollers. With Carbon Roller Deco, I went with Burst Bomb. This weapon definitely needs Burst Bomb for obvious reasons. And for the special, I went with Trizuka to help it take out far away opponents, as this weapon does sometimes struggle to get in. So yeah, I'd say this would be the perfect kit for this weapon. Next up is Crack on Splat Roller with Fizzy Bomb to help it get around and do a little bit of chip damage, and Reef Slider for kind of the same reason, and you may even get a kill on unsuspecting opponents. So yeah, Vanilla Roller's kit is really good, and I think this kit would also be really good, especially if Reef Slider gets a few buffs, because right now the special is kind of mid, but even then, if you use it right, I think it'd be really good. For Gold Dynamo Roller, I went with Splat Bomb, as Splat Bomb again is always good. And for the special, I decided to go with Triple Ink Strike to help it lay down some more paint, but not too much more paint. So yeah, this would be a really good kit, not much else to say. For Foil Flingser Roller, I decided to go with Auto Bomb to help it poke and do a little bit of tracking. And I figured Inkback would also be really good for it. So yeah, I think this would be a pretty decent support pick. And yeah, all I really have to say about it. On to the few brushes in the game. With Ink Brush Nouveau, I decided to go with Ink Mine, which was really good in Splatoon 2, so I think it should come back. And for the special, I decided to go with Reef Slider. I think the weapon could be really annoying with it, especially since after the explosion, the brush could just run away if it starts to get shot at after the explosion. I do hope that the special gets less end lag after the explosion, and yeah, that would definitely help the weapon out. And of course, it could play off the chip damage done by the explosion. So yeah, I think this would be a pretty decent kit. For Octobrush Nouveau, I decided to give it a similar kit to its Kensa kit from Splatoon 2, except the vanilla Octobrush already has Suction Bomb, so I went with Torpedo instead, and Ultra Stamp for the special. Kensa Octobrush was pretty decent in Splatoon 2. So yeah, this kit would be pretty good, especially if Ultra Stamp gets fixed. And on to Chargers. For New Squiffer, I decided to just go with the Fresh Squiffer kit from Splatoon 2, Suction Bomb Inkjet. It was really good in that game, and I think it should return. So Firefin Splat Charger in Splatoon 2 had Splash Wall and Suction Bomb Rush, So this kit would be pretty similar to that. Splash Wall would keep it protected, and triple Ink Strike for laying down more paint. Custom E Leader 4K, I gave it Squid Beacon to help it give jumps, and I decided to go with Booyah Bomb for the special. I think this weapon combined with Booyah Bomb would look really cool, and yeah, I would like to see it. For Bamboozler 14 Mach 2, I went with Burst Bomb. Burst Bomb has always been good on Bamboo for that extra chip damage, turning it into a one-shot instead of a two-shot. And for the special, I was kind of conflicted on choosing a special for it, but I ultimately decided with Big Bubbler. I almost gave it Ink Storm, as it would play pretty well off the chip damage done by it, but I feel like it would be a little too good, so I ultimately went with Big Bubbler instead. This would help keep it protected and give jumps with the beacon in the middle. Yeah, I think this would be a really good kit for it. For Custom Goo Tuber, I went with Curling Bomb and Zuka. Curling Bomb to help it get around, and Zuka to take out long distance threats. Not really a lot to say. I think this would be really good for the weapon. Next up is Sloshers. So for Slosher Deco, I went with Suction Bomb and Crab Tank for a nice aggressive kit. There's not really much to say about this one. I think it'd be really good. For Tri-Slosher Nouveau, I decided to give Burst Bomb back to it, as it was kind of cursed with Toxic Mist on its vanilla kit, which isn't horrible, but not great. And for the special, I think it would play pretty well off of Zipcaster, as it has decent range and killing power, and it's not too ink hungry, so yeah, I think this would be a really strong kit for Tri. For Sloshing Machine Neo, I decided to give it a slightly more aggressive kit with Auto Bomb and Inkjet. Auto Bomb once again being good for decent poking and tracking, and Inkjet getting unique angles and taking out opponents at a good distance. I think this would be really good. Next up is Blabobber Deco with Ink Mine and Ink Vac. The weapon could play really well off of the chip damage done by Ink Mine, and Ink Vac once again being an amazing support special. This kit looks really strong, and yeah, I'd love to see it. Next up is Custom Explosher. I went with Squid Beacon to help it give jumps, and I think it would play really well off of Wave Breaker with the location that it gives, and as well as the chip damage. I think this would be an amazing kit for the weapon, and yeah, it would be great to see it. Next up is Splatlings. For Zinc Mini Splatling, I decided to go with Toximist and Tacticooler. Toximist being really good for slowing down and trapping opponents, and slightly helping it confirm kills easier. And I decided to go with Tacticooler for the special, as I do think this weapon would play really well off of the run speed buff. Yeah, I think it'd be pretty crazy. And of course, it's also helpful for teammates, for obvious reasons. So yeah, I think this would actually be a pretty decent kit. For Heavy Splatling Deco, I went with Splash Wall to keep it protected. I do think this weapon kind of needs it, because it does struggle against chargers a lot. And for special, I decided to give it Killer Whale 5.1, similar to Stingray, except not as annoying. And I do think it would play well off of the chip damage done by Whale. So yeah, I would really like to see this kit. I think it deserves it. For Custom Hydro Splatling, I went with Ink Mine and Triple Ink Strike. Ink Mine was pretty good for it in Splatoon 2. And Triple Ink Strike would be decent for laying down more paint and displacing the other team. Really all I have to say, I think this would be pretty good. Next up is Ballpoint Splatling Nouveau. I just decided to go with its Splatoon 2 kit with Squid Beacon to help it give jumps, and Ink Storm to deny space and do chip damage to anyone caught in the storm. This was really good in Splatoon 2, and I wouldn't mind it returning. So Vanilla Nautilus got done pretty dirty, being that it was given Point Sensor and Ink Storm. So for Gold Nautilus, it should totally get Auto Bomb and Zuka. Auto Bomb to help it track a little bit and do a little bit of chip damage, and Zuka to help it take out threats at a distance. Zuka is pretty much always good, and yeah, it totally deserves it. Up next is Dualies. So for Dapple Dualies Nouveau, I gave it Curling Bomb and Zipcaster. This would be super helpful for letting the weapon get around, as it kind of struggles to do that with its lack of range. So yeah, would love to see this kit. For Enperry Splat Dualies, I decided to go with a similar kit to what it had in Splatoon 2, except I went with Burst Bomb instead of Curling Bomb, because I think it plays really well off of the chip damage done by Burst. And Inkjet, once again getting unique angles and taking out threats from a great distance. I would be really excited if it got this kit. For Lugaduli's Deco, I decided to give it Fizzy Bomb to help it get around and lay down more paint, especially since this weapon is quite terrible at painting. And I decided to give it a more aggressive special with Crab Tank. I think this would be really good for it, and I would like to see it. For custom dually squelchers, I decided to give it angle shooter. I don't think angle shooter is that good, but I do think the main weapon would play well off of it, especially if you land a direct. It does kind of need a cheaper sub anyway, because this weapon is quite a bit ink hungry. And for the special, I went with Ink Storm. Once again, denying space, and the weapon would play really well off of the chip damage done by the storm. So yeah, I would really like to see this kit. And for light Tetra dualies, I gave it Torpedo for poking and tracking and keeping the opponent kind of distracted. And it does definitely need an aggressive special, so I just went with Trizuka. For Cerebrella, I decided to go with Splat Bomb and Tacticooler. I think Tacticooler would be a really good support special for it. I debated giving it Vacuum, but Vanilla Tenebrella already has it. And I tried my best not to make kits way too similar to other kits, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I ultimately just decided with Tacticooler. I do think it would benefit pretty well off of the run speed buff, and yeah, it would be helpful for teammates. I wouldn't mind it getting this kit. For Cerebrella, I decided to go with Inkvine and Wavebreaker. This would be really strong area denial, and the weapon would play pretty well off of the chip damage done by both the sub and special. This would be a pretty crazy kit. I don't think it would be broken, but it would be pretty darn strong. So in the Splatoon 3 Direct, we saw this undercover user pop in Ink Storms, but the vanilla kit has Reef Slider, so I can only assume that that was a Sorella undercover. I do think this would be a really good special for it. It would help deny space, and it would play off of the chip damage pretty well, especially being that undercover has really weak damage. And for the sub, of course, it needs Burst Bomb. This kit is honestly perfect for it. It definitely deserves it. So we don't know what brands that the second variants of these weapons will get, so I just decided to give it a random brand. So for Tri-Stringer, I went with Neo for the brand, and I decided to give a kit that would make up for its huge lack of paint, with the exception of it being able to paint actually pretty good if you just look up at the sky. But yeah, I went with Fizzy Bomb because Fizzy Bomb paints really well, and I think the weapon would play decently off of the chip damage, and Triple Ink Strike for even more paint. So I decided to call Reflux 450's second variant Reflux 600, 10 attack for the brand. And for the sub, I decided to give it Torpedo. Once again, this weapon will play decently off of the chip damage done by the sub, especially if you get a full explosion from it, or even if you just roll it on the ground and it blows up next to someone. And for the special, I just decided to go with Big Bubbler to keep itself protected and give jumps. And finally, the Splatanas. For Splatana Wiper, I decided to go with Sync for the brand, Fizzy Bomb for the sub because it would help it get around and would do a decent amount of chip damage, and Killer Whale 5.1 for even more chip damage. Not really a lot to say. I think this would be pretty decent. And finally, Forge Splatana Stamper. I just decided to go with Splat Bomb Trizuka. This would be a really strong kit, and yeah, not much else to say. So yeah, that was my personal hopes for a second kit for every weapon in Splatoon 3. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and also tell me what would you like to see for an alternate kit for your favorite weapon. I would love to hear it. So anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to smack the like button, and if you're considering unsubscribing to the channel, be sure to hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video, and if you want to support me even more, be sure to check the links in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace!